tell you all today. And it struck me that the best service I could render to all of you was to share 3 things that they never taught me at business school. And as I was trying to put these 3 thoughts together by pure serendipity and coincidence, they came out to represent the initials of my own business school, my alma mater, Harvard Business School. So here is the HBS that Harvard Business School never taught me. The 3 things that I have found indispensable in my career and frankly in my life itself. The H stands for humility. Now perhaps that's not the first thing that a young MBA thinks of while contemplating the future. And why do I start with humility? Now when Jim Collins, the consultant and author, studied the 11 top businesses that had given consistently high returns for over 15 years, he found that the one single quality that was shared amongst all those successful CEOs was a combination, a paradoxical combination of humility and iron will. Now I can hear you thinking, but aren't these 2 contradictory? And in fact, I'm a fresh MBA. I want to make a mark. I want to display will, and how can I be outstanding and at the same time be self-effacing? How can I be self-confident and humble at the same time? But in my view, there is no contradiction at all. You can stand out as well as sit back, because humility is not the opposite of self-confidence. Now, I had a group that has 137 companies in 11 business sectors. It's a group that's filled with engineers, scientists, chartered accountants, techies, lawyers, etc., etc., all of whom know more than I. And if I were foolish enough to send out a signal that because I am the head of the company, I know it all, I guarantee you the Mahindra Group would fold tomorrow. So the only way that I can lead effectively is by seeing myself as the conductor of a very large and talented orchestra. So my first job is to have the humility to understand that the musicians are more proficient in their instruments than I am. So my skill must lie only in finding the best musicians and helping them to play in harmony. Once they have co-created the music with me, their passion and skills will convert the simplest tune into a magnificent symphony. Now, of course, this sounds very high-end, this sounds very complicated and abstract. Let me tell you more directly why humility is a non-negotiable. And to an extent, Sri Kamal Nath already has mentioned this point. The fact is that if you are not humble, you will stop listening. And if you stop listening, I guarantee you, you're going to stop learning. And this is far too complex and fast-paced and volatile a world for you to know everything. Now try and imagine if 2 people were walking through the jungle and one of them had on their headphones and were listening only to recordings of their own speeches. And the second person, however, had no headphones, not closed off to the outside world, and had his or her ears alert to the telltale sounds of the wind and the weather, to the warning of birds in flight, to the rustle of fallen leaves. Well, there are no prizes for guessing which one of those 2 was going to be the dinner of a hungry predator. Now, when you go home after graduation, there's going to be no shortage of people like your aunts and uncles, your neighbors, your old friends and schoolmates who are going to pat you on the back, thump you on the back, and tell you how great you are and how you are a hero. And so you are. You are all heroes. But my advice to you is that in order to get into training for humility, at the end of the day today, spend just a little bit of time contemplating that over your years here at IMT, who helped you learn? Who inspired you? Who mentored you? Who gave you support through all your rough patches here? And then, before the day ends, or perhaps tomorrow, talk to them, mail them, or even phone them, and thank them. Thank them and promise to them that you're never going to stop listening to all of them and to the sounds and the whispers of the world around you. The B in my HBS stands for brevity. Now, business schools place a lot of emphasis on communication, but do they teach you to communicate effectively for the times that we live in? Because never before have we had such a limitless ability to communicate. More text messages are sent in a day than the entire population. population of the planet. More information is generated in one day, every day, than was generated between 0 BC and 2000 AD. So it's super easy to communicate, but it's super hard to be heard. Brevity speaks. It forces you to find simple ways to convey complex thoughts. Nehru's famous Tryst with Destiny speech was famously short. And Ernest Hemingway, the famous American writer, he once wrote an entire story in less than 10 words. Some of you may know this. This was it. For sale, baby shoes, never worn. Just 6 words. For sale, baby shoes, never worn. And when you think about it, he encapsulated and compressed an entire tragic story in 6 words. Now, why am I emphasizing something that might sound very trivial? But let me tell you, I'm sharing one of my greatest frustrations and challenges on a daily basis. In this VUCA world, as we all know it now, VUCA is now the acronym for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. What we need in this VUCA world is speed and agility to navigate our way forward. It's like playing a very speedy, complex video game with absolutely no margin for error. And yet I find in our own business, every day in meetings and encounters, every day the underlying reality of a situation and our own progress is always impeded by long explanations, by circuitous arguments, by taking so long to express ourselves and communicate with others. And let me tell you, clumsy and long-winded communication masks reality. It prevents analysis. And ultimately, it delays action. Now, you're a part of the Twitter generation. So you probably understand the power and profundity of brevity even better than I do. You understand that the birth of a new kind of communication skill is taking place, and I hope you're prepared for it. I know that there are many out there who criticize what I call this age of abbreviation. They're critical of the new short forms that language is taking, and they mourn the passing of leisurely conversations. And yes, frankly, I also pray that emoticons will never replace expansive, poetic expressions of emotion. But in the world of business, I think a more enthusiastic adoption of the age of abbreviation will help you and your business forge ahead faster than others. Think deeply, express briefly. That's the communication mantra that you will increasingly have to master. And finally, the S in HBS is, again, something that Sri Kamal Nath preempted. I told him I'm going to sue him for copyright at the end of this. It stands for self-knowledge or self-awareness. In my book, this means being true to who you are. It means knowing what your values are and maintaining a congruence between who you are and what you do. I think business schools and leadership institutes will miss the mark if they try to remake people into someone different from who they actually were when they entered.